productive for USC at the 4. He only had 2 or 3 good games at USC as a freshman. Wasn't in a comfortable spot for him. Long Beach State, they take him with open arms. Why wouldn't you? It's always good to have local talent on your team. And Roshan Prince was a fine player, set a plethora of records at Long Beach Poly. Good to have him in black and gold. But because of the NCAA's transfer rules, he'll have to sit out this year, and we'll see what type of impact he can make next season. Second of 4 transfers to come in, it was Nick Faust. He only has 1 year of eligibility remaining, but he might be the best transfer Long Beach State has ever gotten. Was a good player for Maryland out of the ACC the last 3 years, and had actually committed to Oregon State. He was going to transfer to Oregon State. Then Oregon State fired their coach. Faust said, I don't want to go to Oregon State anymore. Decommitted from Oregon State, still wanted to transfer, and had some big-time offers. Providence, West Virginia, I think, were after him as well. A couple of other schools. Came to the beach. I smiled from ear to ear when I heard that Nick Faust was coming. And when I went to go watch the scrimmage a couple of weeks ago, the black versus gold scrimmage where Faust went off, my smile got a little bit bigger. This is a kid who, although he won't be eligible this year, and although he'll only have next year to be in black and gold, I mean, this is a guy who is going to be the best player in the Big West next season, in my opinion. A lot of people might say, Luke Nelson, UCI. Maybe Mamadou Njai if he sticks around another year. Cal State Northridge has a lot of good young players. Who knows who else is going to come in next season to the Big West? And we're not really trying to look ahead to next season, but, I mean, Roshan Prince, Nick Faust. Happy to have him, for sure. Faust, shooting guard. All I can say is that the kid's going to be a beast. That's all I can say. Looking forward to seeing him repping the beach across his chest next season. And I'm actually happy that we kind of have to wait a year to get him, because I feel like time goes by just so fast nowadays that if Nick Faust was eligible this year, it'd just go by like that. So let's wait about a year or so for Nick Faust and then sit back and enjoy his lone year, his senior season here at Long Beach State. Let's see what he can do. Because if you put Faust on a team, this year's team with Caffey, Lamb, who plays the same position as Faust, I don't think you're going to get everything out of Nick Faust. I don't think you'll be able to really get the true Nick Faust. I don't think you'll get the most talented Nick Faust if you put him on the roster. Well, he is on the roster. You put him in the lineup this year. You have him play this year. I think he's going to be more fun to watch next year. And a lot of us are actually even looking forward to next year more than we are this year, myself included, but I'm still very excited about the season ahead. Final transfer that won't be eligible this season that we got very late news of, less than a month ago, was Gabe Levin, a guy who we saw play in the Pyramid last year for LMU, was just a freshman last year, so he does have 3 years remaining to play at the NCAA Division I level. Levin at LMU last year. Coaching change in the offseason for LMU. Coach Good, he's out. Coach Dunlap's in. Levin doesn't like that, so he decides to take his talents to the Midwest. Goes to Marquette. Sees a snowflake. Comes running on back to Southern California. No, not really. I don't know what transpired over there at Marquette, but Levin would have had to sit a year out and then play for Marquette next season. Marquette, a very proud basketball program, a high major basketball program out of the Big East. Is that what they call it? Is it still the Big East? I don't know. Too much conference realignment. But Levin, big kid, 6'7", 230 pounds. Happy to have him as well. Should be eligible to go next season. So, Faust, who I think is a beast, I just expressed it to you. Roshan Prince, his potential is to the ceiling. We'll see if he fulfills it. And Gabe Levin, solid post player. A lot to look forward to next season. Not to mention the recruiting class of Noah Blackwell, LaRon Williams, Mason Riggins, and John Ross. Not to mention Travis Hammonds and Branford Jones will only be juniors next year. Oh, did I forget to mention Justin Bibbins, Deontay North, Jack Williams, and Temidayo Yusuf? Yeah, they're freshmen this year. They'll be sophomores next year. A lot to look forward to in the future. Let's get back to focusing on this season. The final transfer who will be eligible and ready to go Friday at BYU, and he'll start. His name's Eric McKnight. I guess he's Dan Jennings' replacement. He's a little bit different of a player than Dan Jennings. McKnight, 6'9", 220. Wingspan, though, of 7'1". So he's a guy that's going to block a lot of shots. And when the 49ers first got him, when he first transferred to Long Beach State, I was a little bit puzzled. This is his fourth Division I school. Out of high school, he went to Iowa State, then transferred to Florida Gulf Coast, went to the Sweet 16 with them. If you look him up on YouTube, Eric McKnight has some highlight reel dunks that you hope to see at Long Beach State this year. Then in the offseason, he was slated to transfer to Tennessee. The SEC didn't approve him, so he wound up here at Long Beach, and up until about 5 or 6 days ago, there was still some questions as to whether or not Eric McKnight would be ready to go for the opener, but he's good to go from what I know. I'd be surprised if we didn't see him out there on the floor Friday night in Provo, Utah, at BYU. 4 p.m. Pacific. Can't wait. But Eric McKnight, I don't think we can expect the offensive production that we got out of Dan Jennings from him. Not that Jennings overwhelmingly was a beast on the offensive side. I think McKnight will get some touches here and there, but his post moves aren't as good as Dan Jennings. Because Dan Jennings, although he wasn't always consistent throughout his tenure here at Long Beach, he was able to create shots for himself. He was. You give Dan Jennings the ball down in the post, left hook, right hook, he can do it. But of course, Dan Jennings, terrible when it came to free throws. He'd tell you the same thing. Eric McKnight, I saw him shoot some free throws at the scrimmage. Better than Jennings, I'll take it. But the post moves from what I saw weren't there. But the defense, eye-opening. I think he had 4 or 5 block shots. This guy is going to be a dominant force defensively if he can stay out of foul trouble. And really, it's going to pay dividends for Long Beach when he's guarding guys like Mamadou Ndiaye, which I think he can do a very good job at. With a 7'1" wingspan, taking care of a 7'6" guy, that's about as good as you can do when you're defending Mamadou Ndiaye. I'd like to see McKnight guard Al Williams, see how that matchup goes. Dan Jennings did a pretty good job at guarding Big Al the last couple of seasons. Now it's up to Eric McKnight, a senior. A lot to play for. These guys won't all publicly share it, but every single senior hopes that they get a shot to play professionally somewhere. Even Dan Jennings last year, we all know he at his size, without a jumper, he wasn't an NBA guy. But he was able to still find a way to make some money playing basketball. I think he's over in Mexico playing right now. So good for Dan Jennings. And Eric McKnight in a similar spot. This is his last shot. He could go overseas if he has a strong senior campaign and go make some money doing what he loves, playing basketball. So McKnight, a guy who has a lot to play for, in a new uniform, and I'm sure he wants to get to the NCAA tournament again as well. Like I mentioned, he was on that Sweet 16 team with FGCU, Florida Gulf Coast. So those are the four guys: Rashawn Prince, Gabe Livin, Nick Faust, and Eric McKnight. McKnight, the only one that will be eligible this season. But hey, Long Beach State, they needed a big man. They got him. Now can McKnight stay on the court? Had some disciplinary issues last year. I'm hoping everything works out with him. He's a sure talent, and Long Beach State lucky to have him. As far as guys who transferred out, Nick Shepard transferred to Texas Southern. Chris Gully out the door as well. He transferred to Florida International, I think, or Florida Atlantic, one of the two. But both of those guys able to graduate from Long Beach, which was good to see because both of them were red shirts, so both of them graduated in 4 years. You always like to see that. Javion Watson left the team, went to a junior college, as did Desmond Ross. And that's kind of how everything got situated in the offseason. Because when all these transfers came in and all the freshmen came in for Long Beach, on paper, there was no way that Long Beach was going to be able to keep the majority of the guys from last year's roster on this year's roster as well, while welcoming the 4 transfers along with the 4 freshmen. 5 freshmen if you throw in the walk-on Alex Rivkin, but he doesn't count towards the scholarship total. So that's not too much of a problem. But everything, like it seems to do in college basketball, worked out for Long Beach State for the time being. Forgot to mention Christian Griggs-Williams. He's still on the roster and he still attends some team events here and there, but as far as I know, Griggs-Williams is set to redshirt this year and then graduate potentially in December and try and find somewhere to play next season. Kind of like what Kyle Richardson did. Went on to play at Portland State for his senior year. So Griggs-Williams, the Griggs-Williams project only came to fruition 1 year for Long Beach State. He did a decent job last year in the backup role to Dan Jennings. We saw his time kind of diminish as the season went on. Did Griggs-Williams, but he had some decent games for Long Beach State. He was a quality reserve off the bench, but this year and in the future, there just doesn't seem to be a lot of room for him with Williams and Yusuf coming in and McKnight as well. So he's pretty clogged up at his position, and good for him that he's scheduled to graduate soon, and hopefully he finds himself an opportunity to go play some basketball at another university, namely a Division I school next season. We'll step aside here on the Long Beach State Men's Basketball Show, our first commercial break about half an hour in, and we'll take a look at the schedule for Long Beach State, and we'll key in on that BYU game. We'll key in on that San Francisco State game. We'll just talk some Long Beach State men's basketball, because that's what we do here on the Long Beach State Men's Basketball Show. Go figure. We'll be right back after this.
Your presentation of national sports is brought to you by Spreaker.com. Broadcast and listen to news, radio, and music with one low monthly rate. Your show will be right back after this word from your local stations. You can contact National Sports in a number of ways through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter with the label National Sports. We love to have you guys a part of our show and can easily join us also through text or call.